I'll have Dan do it.
All right, welcome everyone to the 5:30 PM, October 1st, 2024, Sherwood City Council work session. Got three items tonight. Oh, by the way, Keith's gonna be a little bit late, but I think we have the rest of council here. We've got three items on the agenda tonight for our work session. Intro into the Old Town Strategic Plan, the website update, and the Sherwood West update. So we'll start with strategic plan, and it looks like Sean.
Yes,
You are kicking us off.
yeah, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Rosner, council members. So for your fiscal year, one of your development goals, economic development goals, was the continued revitalization of Old Town. So a key deliverable of that was the Old Town Strategic Action Plan. Bruce sent out an RFP earlier this year, and in August, we selected a consulting firm, First 40 Feet, who are with us today, and they'll provide an introduction and go over overview of the Old Town Strategic Action Plan and get some feedback from council members. Before I turn it over to them, I just want to let you know that as your planning manager, I'll be the lead staff person for Old Town Strategic Action Plan, working with the consultants, along with Eric. And as Bruce is retiring, the new economic development manager will also be working closely with us. So with that, I will turn it over to First 40 Feet.
Great, let's maybe do introductions first.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Jason Graff. I'm a principal at First 40 Feet. We'll talk a little bit about what that is, kind of a funny name. And I'll hand it off to Will, who's my partner.
Will Grimm, principal at First 40 Feet. Good to be here. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay,
Everyone
Bruce
knows you?
Coleman, I think we owe most to you. Economic Development Manager with the city. I think
To our guests.
yeah, our guest.
I'm Taylor Giles, City Council. Rick Dalton, City Manager.
Kim Young, City Council President.
From Rosner, Mayor.
Renee Browse, City Council.
Kristen Switzer, Assistant City Manager.
Thanks, Scott, City Council.
Dan Stankey, City Council.
Eric Relich, Community Development Director.
And Sean Conrad, Planning Manager.
Perfect. Well, before we get into this, I just wanted to say that this is really great that we can talk to you early. Part of our process is to talk to council and get your ideas. We have several questions we pose in the presentation. Most of our critical part of our process is insights and getting, obviously talking to businesses and community, but really talking to you as well and getting, what you value and just the first kind of round of engagement. Going to help us a lot. You don't really draw much until we really have a good sense of just knowledge. So you'll see that in the presentation. A few diagrams of just our initial thoughts. We've already kind of gone through maybe 3 or 4 times now through the neighborhood. We went all day today and actually threw up a drone and did some really cool photography, which is going to be used in our analysis. So we're very excited.
Do we get copies of the drone?
Of course you do. Yes. Yes. We will share that with Sean. So I'll hand it to you to go for it. I'll
Sure,
take
yeah.
good notes. I'll also kind of do color commentary as well. Thank you.
Maybe click on it with the mouse and then it'll, yep, there you go. Now, there you go.
Well, thanks for having us. We've hung around the neighborhood a few times. That those little quote bubbles in the bottom. Inside joke with Bruce. We met with Bruce several months ago. It was a great visit when he brought us into town.
Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I thought it was just a joke when I saw the draft. I didn't think it was gonna go to you. So I thought it was funny when I saw it. None of us want Bruce to retire. That's pretty unanimous. If you want to raise your hand, yes, we don't.
Or his wife to hurt him.
We're excited to be working with you, City of Sherwood. And we have some folks helping us to work First 40 Feet. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, but we're being assisted by a market analyst, Leland Consulting Group. And they've been involved in your Sherwood West and your Area 48 work. So they're really familiar with your growth boundary, your developing of your industrial lands. So I think there's some great continuity. Back in the day, Chris Sajas helped with the cannery development, which, is across from Cannery Square. And so familiarity with the neighborhood, and Harper Huff, their former planners or former folks, and Harper Huff worked on the original streetscape work in downtown. it's pretty exciting. Your curbless streets have definitely been a model, like it's emanated out to other towns and jurisdictions. We just completed construction documentation for downtown Vancouver from 5th to 15th. And they're going curbless, and part of the inspiration was visits coming here, talking to your public works directors about what worked, like didn't, but anything. It's inspiring, so we're excited about that. So that's our team helping us out. And we'll, I think, can describe a little bit about the first 40 feet. I think it'd be good to know who we are.
Yeah, we often, it's a curious name. People don't understand what that means. And I often joke that we're not a shoe company because that's the first thing they ask. So first 40 feet is really the place where cities like are great. Like that's like the edges and that environment, and not just up a building, but out into the streetscape. So that's really our canvas for we really want to get that right. In order to do that, we often think in multiple scales. We zoom way out, we look at your region, neighborhoods, districts, streets as well. And it's a fun name. It's not named after anybody. There's no initials here. It's really the place where we want to get things just dialed in and right, and kind of our canvas for which we work. So we thought it was fun, and it's curious and a great conversation starter.
So getting into your project, there's a specific area that we're looking at, and that's Old Town. I mean, generally what you consider sort of your zoning areas, the Smockville neighborhood and the Cannery. And so we're sort of focused on that. You can sort of see that 1/4 mile radius that extends out to where Oregon comes in and where Sherwood Boulevard comes from the north and Washington and Maine, and just past the Arts Center to the south. So that's generally our focus, knowing that you all want to strengthen your traditional heart. I mean, we're seeing, as Will and I, our first impressions driving into the community, seeing your investment in infrastructure, seeing all the jobs being created just outside the Old Town boundaries is pretty exciting. Like seeing what you all are saying about balancing housing and employment are really exciting things. And what we hear from Bruce and what we hear from Eric is that this is a gem that's a part of that greater Sherwood, and you really want to take a look at what can you fine tune and sort of improve and build on here in downtown. So we're excited about that. And so we're going to walk through some impressions that we've had about where potential change might occur, where some changes occur that maybe isn't moving in the direction you want to. We want to sort of tap into your values, what's important to you all, to get an understanding of sort of where, as leaders and decision makers, what Old Town means to you and what we can focus on in those efforts. So we're going to look at some objectives. Community engagement and visioning is one part of it. We're going to have multiple meetings with you all. This is an iterative process. We need to identify sort of what the challenges and opportunities are. Look at key sites that may be catalysts or game changers. Think about some regulations that maybe need to be fine-tuned, but there's going to be few elements. We're also wanting to dial in to that relationship with the Sherwood Main Street group, because we know that's your core business folks in the downtown. You've done a tremendous amount of work in building infrastructure, great public spaces, Cannery Square, the Arts Center. The streetscape is all pretty amazing. Sherwood, the plaza across from City Hall and the library, all just fantastic things. And I think let's look at some of those vacant properties and see what the next iteration of downtown would be. So engagement with you is critical. Engagement with the Sherwood Main Street group is really important. And where we can carve out opportunities after we've had those conversations, we want to have touch points with the broader community too, to be able to show what we're talking about, what we're thinking about, and bring them into the fold. It won't be as intensive as these meetings with you or with the neighborhood groups. We also have a project advisory committee that has satellite people who are familiar with the community, and they're going to help us with some of the decision making and developing analysis as we move forward. It's about a 12-month process. We had a kickoff meeting. A bunch of sub consultants came into town. We met with Eric and Bruce to sort of lay the groundwork. We've been developing that project advisory committee, and I know you all are going to weigh in on that ultimately. And then once we have that core group established, we're going to start setting the schedule for meetings. The initial project initiation is getting familiar with Sherwood. what the opportunities and challenges are, and then progressing into some specific strategies to consider. And then just sort of bouncing those off of the different groups, you all, the PAC, and the Downtown Association. And then moving towards some concrete steps and actions that become the bones of the strategic plan. So it was going to be some regulatory changes, they may be looking at development potential for some key sites, considerations of infrastructure investment possibly for, let's say, the public works property, those types of comments. Initial impressions coming in, I mentioned a bit about the excitement of all the investment that's happening around the community. I know Bruce has done just a bang up job, and I think everyone's pretty excited with his effort, but what you've managed to do here is pretty, I think, exceptional. Sherwood is kind of on the map and not on the map, so we see that as we sort of tour the neighborhood here. And I want to pause for a minute. This is just a view of the downtown area, so that's Pine Street kind of there to the right. It's looking a little bit to the north. But I'm curious from you all, what do you consider the heart of Old Town? If I could just go around each person, I'm just curious, like if you're bringing a friend downtown, or what makes you think, oh yeah, that's the heart, or that's the place I most bring people to when I have them come into downtown Sherwood.
Mine, the art center.
Art Center.
Yeah, I would say, I have a lot of meetings and symposiums, and I would say that it's, I mean, when I say Old Town, I mean the 9 blocks or so there, and driving through there is what I mean.
Yeah. What street feels like the street, like the signature street in downtown? For you?
Ooh,
Railroad, yeah.
Is it Railroad?
I actually, I'm gonna be contrarian. I think what I think special about our downtown is there is really no one street. You know, a lot of downtowns, especially here in Oregon, just have that one drag.
Exactly,
through town. We're spread out. We have more opportunity to do things, so.
yeah, when I go to Old Town, it's a Saturday market, and we'll park on Columbia area. We'll go to Cannery Square, we'll walk across to the Art Center, we'll go down Railroad, we'll hit Cedar and Stone, right? I mean, like, I've done that loop, I don't
Yeah, the
know,
loop,
20
right.
times, right?
I love the loops.
But
Loops are
it's,
good.
and part of it is that discovery, right, of being able to discover cute little, you know, oh, here's Hungry Heroes. So that's why I want to encourage businesses that are active and that are unique and that are open in that area.
Yeah.
If you think about the 9 block radius, and then it's perimeter right on the other side of the 9 blocks. So you draw a diagonal line from Sherwood Boulevard to the other diagonal, and you really have residential on one side and then the kind of commercial mixed use on the other. I think on the residential side, I don't know that I'd be looking to change a whole lot, kind of keep that, or help keep that character, maybe some additional. I like Tim's old idea of kind of a greenway or a pathway, extending the pathway that runs right here all the way to Veterans Park would be really cool.
The promenade.
Promenade, yeah. But on the mixed use side, it's not just the infill of vacant properties, but it's all the underdeveloped properties that used to be residential are acting as commercial, but are really underutilized, right? They're not 0 lot line right now. They're houses that are converted to businesses, right? And to me, you have to get critical mass of businesses and residents down into Old Town to really get a critical mass of activity, both internally and externally. And so that redevelopment of those underutilized properties is, to me, where I think the unlock really comes in.
When I think of the heart of Sherwood, I think of Railroad Street, Sherwood Boulevard, 2nd Street, over to Main Street, that
Block.
block.
Yeah,
And
right.
everything that happens in between. I mean, I too could point out various places that I go on a regular basis to meet and talk and all those other things, but that's when I think of the heart of Sherwood, that's what I think of.
Perfect.
We hit qualities of Old Town too. Does anyone want to touch on the second question? Or,
I was gonna go back to the first one.
Yeah.
I live near downtown, Old Town, and so when our family comes in, we usually do a loop from Columbia up Railroad past the World War II Memorial and then back down first to the City Hall and then the sidewalk that's just right here. Back through. And so there isn't really one place like everybody's kind of saying, like we don't have one place in Old Town. It's, if you do it all while you're there, because it's small enough, but interesting enough to like, go by everything and see what's going on.
To your second question, I would say it's gathering, it's community. It's a place to conversate, if that's an actual word or not. I like that word.
It is.
It's collaborative,
Gonna see that again.
yeah.
Yeah, and I like the stores that allow discoverability, right? Where it's not, where sometimes I'm literally walking down and I'm not sure what I'm gonna find, right? I don't know if there's gonna be a special going on at Hungry Heroes. I don't know if there's gonna be something new at Cedar and Stone, or something like that. The thing that I would say, the opposite of that are the places where, and again, I apologize if there's some of the business owners here today, but where there's an appointment where I go to the dentist, I know I get my drill, I go to the hair salon, I get my hair done, I go to the dog groomer, although I don't think dog groomers are anymore, but I get it done and I leave, right? That's not as exciting to me as I'm going to a place and every corner I've got some cool
Yeah,
new thing to discover.
exactly. Yeah,
Right?
ever changing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. But those combination of services like
Oh, yeah,
king trips and to your point,
Yeah.
but still having things like, especially kids, you know, when you're hauling kids around, you're doing a couple
Yeah.
errands, you just need that place where they can go like Cannery Square to just run
Yeah.
out or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and we've talked about this before. It's Cannery Square and then you go to Rainbow Market, get an ice cream cone, or you
Mhm.
go, you know, so, I think Bruce had the winning. Well, if we can get a Trells to sell, then we can have a place, an ice cream shop there called Crematorium.
Yeah.
So-
I love it. No, that's good. Oh, yeah. Come on.
I'll put the money, I'll put the money up front.
You already
Got a
purchased the
major
domain
investor,
name.
got a major investor at the table.
Oh, crematorium.
brilliant.
Yeah, hey, we need ice cream downtown. So anyway.
A lot of it's also the character of Old Town, like, I think having the old homes are, I think that's character, like.
Yeah.
It's a
I
Yeah.
very much don't want any more buildings that are in my face and a slant roof like that.
Yeah.
The best place to, the Park Street is the most unique street, I think, in our community with all those craftsman homes. and stuff.
Redevelopment.
With character.
Yeah, we need to better define standards, absolutely.
I would say the gas pump park is also something, usually when people come from out of town, they get a joke out of, you know, they get a laugh out of it.
The one on the corner there with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That big park right there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would even say though, you know, that's what's interesting about it is that Stella Olson Park, while I normally don't consider that Old Town, when it's a movie on the green, I definitely consider it part of Old Town, because it's like, oh, we go to that and then we walk down to our.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it kind of is a little
Definitely.
fluid on that.
I mean, connecting those are like those edge assets that
Yeah.
extend the amount of time people spend in downtown. Like if you could walk down Railroad and hop on the trail and head back to the park and create these little mini loops back into downtown. Those are the things that like you're saying, like you're exploring and discovery. Those are kind of neat, interesting things for people who have a little bit extra time in downtown to explore those things and to have those really identifiable and easy to connect to are really gonna be really valuable. And we're gonna talk about some of the properties that like our initial impressions, like when we were in that space, we're like, wow.
I think one key thing that we haven't mentioned yet that's really important is we have 4 schools in walkable range in our downtown core. So you come down here when school's getting out, you have kids flooding down to the library and going to Rainbow Market to get some candy. I'm sure the parents love. But that's an important part of what Sherwood.
Absolutely. That's great.
So you probably already know, we have a very, very high ratio of school age kids to household, highest in the state.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Sherwood, so that's an important aspect.
And you know how much fun they have being independent, that little bit of period of time after school, before they have to come home and eat dinner, and like to be in a safe environment or be able to bike and walk, like, it's pretty awesome. So you've got a great place to do that. I just want to share with you some initial impressions. We're coming here from Portland. I live in Southeast Portland, so does Will. I'm
Sorry.
I moved to Oregon in '94. I'm from Kentucky originally.
Oh, that was.
Yeah, there you go. Who would have thought that? So what if I say doesn't really count for much? But you know, the thinking about the downtown setting, and we're always interested in what is that sense of arrival like. And so when we come to town, we're cruising through Tualatin, we're taking I-5 and cruising through Tualatin. So we're taking Oregon Street, and it's a bit of a circuitous route. You hit the roundabout, and you're sort of getting a sense of downtown, but not really until you hit First and Pine, and then you realize I'm in the town center. And then, of course, coming from the north, Sherwood Boulevard, that is another entry, and Langers is another sort of key one, although with all the construction going on now, it's not quite what it will be in the future, but it's pretty darn close. And the rail line really sets a barrier because, you know, to me, I sort of see Pine as a signature street because it was most identifiable when I came into town, because I could see City Hall, I could see the plaza, I could see the Art Center, and I was like, okay, this is an important street. And so we crossed the rail tracks right to the other side because you're sort of drawn in because of the design of the street. But the rail line creates that barrier, and you notice that, okay, I can only cross at Pine or at Main, and I can't the other way. Other times I've come into town off Oregon Street and I've gone to the south around behind the Cannery Row Apartments, and that's sort of a journey to discovery because you've lost where downtown is. So some of the initial impressions are the sense of arrival is a little bit convoluted coming from the direction we are. But you're also really well connected along Washington Street. It's connecting to Sherwood West and the high school and all those bigger bits around town. So you do have all these fingerlings feeding in. It's just that sense of getting to the core isn't always identified. And the rail, I think, is a barrier then to the other side and how you knit those two. So it's really interesting when you all say railroad is the front door. It feels like the edge in the street that you guys really identify with. So it's like,
I would say it's the front door.
Okay, but
The way you ask the question
Heart.
is different.
Okay.
Heart.
The heart, it's the heart.
Yeah.
And so knitting that, like, I think that's an interesting idea. So I love that railroad is the heart, and all roads should lead to railroad.
Well, if you ask some in the community, which I'm sure this will come up in your guys' process, is there are still people who would like to see railroad closed permanently, because during COVID, we closed it and allowed businesses to expand out.
Oh, yeah, on the street.
On the
Pedestrian only, yeah.
And there's people that would say today, like, let's close it permanently and have, you know,
Mhm.
like Boise and like a lot of communities have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting, okay.
so during COVID, you did it sort of temporarily.
One block.
Yeah, just one block.
block off of, between Pine and.
On special events, does that street get closed as well, or?
Streets are closed. for
The
special
whole
events.
downtown.
Sorry,
is
whole
closed, yeah.
downtown, perfect, awesome. So some initial impressions too is looking at some of the vacant sites and really, you know, Pine is a scene that has quite a bit of those, and that there are city-owned properties as well. So coming in from the north off Sherwood, that large parcel that sits sort of perched right at Third. And when you're in that space, it's really interesting. You hear a little bit of the cars and you cross the street, but once you're up on that bluff, it sort of gets quieter. And then I peeked around the vacant lot and I saw down by the church, you can see Stella Park back in there. Anyway, it's a very interesting site, a real sense of, you have a view down, yeah, the old schoolhouse property, where it's a big black triangle there at the top. And looking down along Pine, and of course you see Pine rise up into the neighborhood. Interesting. I just feel like Pine is an important scene, let's say. And I think railroad is the other. So let's say it's a T shape.
And then, can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
'Cause one of the things, we haven't done anything formal on this yet, but we've talked a lot about it, is we have the promenade that runs through here. So when you think about, you know, what the potential draw could be, you know, what's the center, you know, the vision I have is that runs all the way down to Memorial Park. And, because that opens up all the backs of the buildings to additional shops and restaurants and stuff like that. So I only bring that up because as we talk about what the vision looks like, it could be a new.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be an existing street.
And I think those connections are really important. Will said the exact same thing. Because we were coming in from the roundabout, we walked from the rail line at Oregon Street and Langer. And that really wide sidewalk, which feels like a trail almost, and it connects all the way into City Hall. But then Will's like, this thing needs to just keep going.
Yeah.
Go to Washington, go to Maine, connect down Railroad into the trail at Stella, to Stella Olson Park, and so a lot of, we're definitely taking notes on a lot of these.
And having like joint garbage services or something would clear out that alleyway a little bit so that we,
That has been talked about.
yeah. That's, yeah, because essentially that's all it is right now is, there's garbage cans. That's the big reason. It's not great to walk down there. Yeah, they're alleys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But there's tidy alleys are
Yeah,
still
but we can do it.
traversable and.
yeah, doable.
Yeah.
They're logical connections and,
Yep.
so when I think of Pine, I've done a lot of downtown retail revitalization. And there's some sort of basic metrics on retail streets that they typically have a beginning and an end. And if you know the traditional Main Street, we used to have the retail anchors, on either end, you'd have your Macy's and your Nordstroms or whatever, and you have all the inline shops in between. And that was sort of the configuration of a lot of downtowns. And Washington probably has the most distinct like that, old traditional Main Street. But Pine really is an important connection, sort of a beginning and end of downtown along that street. And so when you think about the opportunities for redevelopment on that, you really see an opportunity at Third as an anchor to establish something over time. There's some infill opportunities, particularly at First, because there's another term called the 100% corner. It's like, maybe it's Railroad and Pine, but
Yeah.
it sort of in my mind feels like First and Pine is kind of your 100% corner. That's like you're really in the middle and heart. And so like getting development, encouraging something there is going to have a reciprocal positive impact on downtown. And then certainly all the properties that were part of the Cannery project and the Public Works project, again, are
And then
significant opportunities.
There's another vacant parcel, big vacant parcel past a little square one there at the end.
Yeah.
Community garden.
Mhm.
No, well, yes,
Yeah.
feel free to, no,
Community garden.
that's certainly eligible,
No,
but no, I'm thinking as the end of the yellow,
Lemon and Pine.
yeah.
Is it here?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that one.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key piece.
And you're aware of our long, medium-term goals of moving the public works building,
Yes.
because that huge big block where that triangle is and then there's that south of that, would be open for redevelopment as well.
How well is the field house used? What's that? Is that a great asset?
It's the latest.
Tell me a little bit about.
Another
the field house.
conversation. Oh, yeah, we haven't had a field house report in a long time.
We can sure get you one.
Yeah.
And I think we're back to pre-COVID numbers and it's used, every day. It's just one field, so you are.
One field, okay.
One field.
Gotcha.
So,
Seems like it's extra long.
no, I mean, it's utilized for different activities, not just soccer.
Mhm.
Lacrosse and softball. and different-
Birthday parties.
Yeah, birthday parties, but main use is between 3 o'clock and midnight. So it's an evening type thing.
Oh, wow.
And now that we have so much happening at Public Works and with broadband having been over there, we don't have parking. So we really can't market it too much during the day. But that may change.
Okay.
I think that's a conversation like if that stays or when we move that somewhere else and, to redevelop that whole.
Got it. Yeah.
So I sort of jumped ahead when I, said, seeing these sites as infill sites, the stars represent the properties that the city owns. So I think that's advantageous because it allows you to have some control over what future development might be, either through incentives or guidance or whatever. And then I think someone was talking a little bit about, would there are there logical streets where you might see expansion of commercial? So I've sort of outlined these pink streets. Some of them, like the single family homes have transitioned into a commercial use. You sort of have fits and starts of that in different places and, you know, it is, you think about your core area and opportunities to expand, you know, there's always a question of is there a logical progression of that commercial development on those streets, or generally should it stay within the core? Yeah, the pink
Yeah,
area.
I think,
Is that a logical?
well, one of the, just to add to this, one of the things, ideas we've been toying with is once we move the Public Works building, and there's some barriers to this, but ideally we extend Washington Street down to Oregon Street. Because right now it's kind of a dead end, so it's gonna be hard to get commercial customers to go in because you don't have the flow.
Right.
You know, so we've been thinking about how do we open that up, so and it creates another route to downtown.
Say that again, Oregon Street to what?
Washington Street to extend it to Oregon Street.
To Langer, like Washington or Oregon Langer.
Is that like this to here?
That's Foundry, but yeah.
No, so, and we've even talked to the fire department because they're looking for a new location, but Washington Street actually, you would extend.
Isn't that
it-
Columbia?
Columbia.
Columbia. Columbia Street, I
Makes
Yes.
sense.
extend that out somehow.
Yes.
Over here, and there's some challenges with how you do the intersection there, but that would create a flow through here for commercial.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Sorry.
Washington, you lost me.
That.
To go back to your
Yeah,
question, to me, it's like anything on this side of Pine totally makes sense to
yes,
expand.
commercial.
To me, this, yes, this, I think now you're getting into what I think is a
Traditional
pretty
neighborhood.
traditional residential area, and I don't
Yeah.
know that I'd wanna mess with that
Yeah.
personally.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. But heading to the east.
I kind of agree with Doug on that, except if these, like, right now, there's not a ton of traffic to these two because we got the funeral home and, you know, the lawyer's office, right? If those became more active, then I could see this as being more desirable. So maybe that's, again, a later phase.
Very long term, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because it's like right now, part of the reason that it feels residential is because there's nothing over there.
Yep.
And so you would never discover that over there.
And
Well-
to be clear to anyone listening, we're not coming to take your homes.
No.
Yeah.
Overlay, yeah.
Yeah.
Very
clear. That's the
To,
very, 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 very first step, and then to reach out to the community.
I, Mayor, to build off on your initial conversation, much like your suggestion of Columbia Street, I was thinking the same thing, because I mentioned this sense of arrival of coming into Sherwood off of Oregon Street, the ability to connect Columbia and Oregon Street is a way to open up that property and create a new way to get into downtown where you have the arts center as your anchor at the end of that street. So that sense of arrival of coming in from the east and the southern edge of town is really strong. And you know, the Langer folks are probably still gonna do the roundabout way, but I think this is going to. The accessibility that you could create with Columbia will open the doors for development opportunity on that.
The conversation of the railroad would be interesting.
The what?
The conversation with the railroad.
That's why I said there's some challenge.
Oh, I'd
Well,
rather
it
see
is an
railroad open
existing
up.
There is an existing cross.
Yeah,
Well, what's.
So it
at
took
Washington.
And
tremendous amount of effort to get what we got.
to get what's there today.
We don't have to get into the weeds, but there's other options. You can just extend it out to this street to, to go that way. So there's a lot of work to understand how you do that.
Going back to something you commented on earlier, when you come from that roundabout there. You know, that roundabout that's on the screen as you approach Pine, that whole section from the roundabout to Pine, massive opportunity. Like it's, I mean, you got the eyesore sheds, you know, warehouses on one side and underdeveloped. You know, former residential on the other side, and it just feels like there's a massive opportunity for your front porch there.
And what's the long-term vision for here and here?
So the first one where access is over, that is all owned by St. Francis.
Catholic Church.
Okay,
And then the other corner is it's a light industrial place and they're not really doing much, but it is a very opportunistic place.
I was actually thinking in the beginning that that should be part of our look here.
Yeah, as part of our comprehensive plan update. At some point along that, we look at where some lands are maybe wrongly zoned.
Yep.
And that could be a parcel to review that. And
Especially in
then,
conjunction with any change in the road configuration there would be.
Yeah.
And if we're looking to make an entry to Old Town, we can't have the entry be a vacant old pallet.
Bill's old place, right? Like
Yeah.
Bill's old place, okay.
so if you did the very basic, the easy thing, it might not be the right thing, but the easy thing is it needs to be zoned high density residential. And you need worker or a very affordable housing
It's a
there,
great spot.
which is
for that.
close to all of the major retail area up there.
Bus lines.
And bus and but it could be more nuanced than that, or
And it's a great spot for that kind of residential.
There's not a lot of downtown stores that have the opportunity to redevelop like
Oh,
that.
I know, yeah, for sure.
In an area that has less impact on existing neighborhoods, it's really up against the commercial, it's.
Yeah.
I think there's room for other types. All right, so we've got a few here, we'll start with the top, see how far we get, but, priorities for city parcels, maybe pick one, or maybe there's a couple that you're thinking about.
so input from the community and from your folks on the Third and Pine and Sherwood Boulevard lot. I think staff and electeds have struggled with ultimately of solving that equation. Because it's also a prominent corner for Old Town. And it is anything but easy to develop because of requirements on stormwater and streets and access.
I personally would love for that infill one to be thought of as Sherwood's living room and have it be a food cart pod.
Yes.
That has everybody can go there, can hang out, kids can go.
What are you talking
Oh,
about?
and thankfully it's too small.
Well, we can adjust it.
It's pretty big.
Yes,
That,
I would agree with that.
I just want it to be a unique building that's Instagrammable, that is.
Ooh, I like that
welcome to
word.
Sherwood.
Very good.
Yeah, welcome to Sherwood. The kids can walk there after school. They can get.
What's Instagram?
Instagrammable. Old man.
We've got 3 great terms today.
Yeah.
That's off the plan that somebody brought us for that there.
yeah, I think in
That
that
would be
scenario,
awesome.
you gotta be, the very front of the lot has to be your pavilion building. Right? And-
Yeah, but it's just
and you have all the
again.
trucks behind
But
it.
I feel if you were to make it, if you were to call it Sherwood's living room, right? We go there, we get a beer, you can get your food, you can get, and again, it's an anchor spot and if it's a unique building that's like, this is Sherwood, we're here. I love that.
I kind of my take on all this is you guys are the experts. I mean, the kind of the outcomes I'm looking for, at least from my point of view, is more foot traffic, more, lunchtime business, mercantile shops, meat market,
Italian deli.
an Italian deli, like if you go down and look at, Newburgh has some amazing, restaurants down there,
Bread
and
shop.
so what are the things we need to drive that? I mean, I've often thought a boutique hotel, would be great for one of those lots, to complement some of the convention center stuff that we can do. So, but that's, that kind of vibe, right? What do we need to drive that? I'm hoping as part of this effort too, we look at what kind of economic development tools can we put in place, like SDC offsets and stuff like that. So we have a little bit more ability to influence the type of businesses that come down. We don't necessarily need more like professional services downtown. That doesn't create that walkable environment.
You deal with professional services,
So we're gonna want to explore the development capacity for these sites and talking to our market analysts, there's always trends, right? We know multifamily, for instance, is a trend. we can look at how mixed use has performed here in the past, although one thing I don't like about market analysis is they look backwards in the rearview mirror and they project it forward 5 to 10 years. And sometimes you can change the investment environment. You can have a position or look for a certain type of thing and create something that everyone's telling you couldn't happen before. So let's keep an open mind as we explore some of these sites, and we'll get dialed back on what the market is saying. But I think this is an opportunity, and it's really helpful. If you have aspirations and you believe this site is like important, let's try and lay out what that thing could be. And then we work back to see like how achievable that is. Are your zoning codes and regulations prohibiting it? There may be some trade-offs, things you don't like. We're gonna see that, I think, on our last slide when we look at some of the books coming online. But this is a great opportunity for us to like feel out what seems right to you all.
I think when we talk mixed use, we have to be careful of that latest bill out of the state that if something, they can have the
Yeah.
first floor not be mixed use.
Yeah, and I think that leads in, I want to keep moving us on here. Can make sure we get to number 6. That's fine. I think you go back one,
Yeah.
get to number 6 as well. I think that gets to that instead of focusing on individual sites, the concern. So yes, the SB 1537 would allow in this density in Old Town, if it's multifamily, so if we do have some single family zones, so it wouldn't apply there. They have to 17 units per acre. But if it's zone multifamily or if it's zone mixed use and allows multifamily, they can likely hit 17 units per acre. And then they would qualify for that mandatory adjustment.
And then that's something we're really gonna wanna understand, because there's, in 1537, there's a lot of things we don't like. For instance, they can have a story, they can choose different roof lines, different materials for the outside of the building.
Okay.
Don't match, we have that one new building that went in that they. Likes it,
Yeah.
But I think that's gonna be an important part of this, what do we need to do with our code to make sure we're upgrading things and that's
Right. And I think on the 1537 thing, the one thing I've been thinking about, and this is a question, and a legal question probably, for Sebastian who's not here. If we get to the point where we start talking about incentives or abatements or something, can we say you can only get this abatement if you agree not to use 1537 or other similar measures? I don't know if
Or
that's legal or
incentive,
not.
right, incentive, right.
But we have incentives,
Incentive,
but you
yep.
can't trigger that thing if you want.
And I think we want to look at that. I think we know I briefed them on 1537, the concern that the council has on it. And so I think through this process, we'll look at either code or incentives, whatever. How can we try and either require or guide, to guide the process to mitigate against that.
Potentially bake that into that development.
Yeah, I'm not, and I'm not looking to solve our housing problem in Old Town. The kind of density I'm looking for in Old Town is more, I want some more temporary people. So whether it's a boutique hotel and they're here for the weekend, or they're a family coming from any of our many suburbs and they're coming to dinner and walking around, or they're working here and having lunch, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we've got the kind of a downtown that can handle an extra 4 apartment buildings that are all packed full of people and the traffic and all of that other stuff that comes with it, right? And so I know we need both, but I don't know that Old Town.
I think you need more people living in Old Town, or you're never gonna hit the critical mass that's gonna attract all the business.
Okay, well, okay, so
Or near Old Town,
I was gonna
let's
say,
say, like that spot we were talking about.
yeah, well, okay, so I would say,
Fireplace.
I'd be willing to, I'm not gonna say no.
It's not the primary objective.
Yeah,
We agree
I'm
on
saying I, because what I need is more of those temporary people that are coming, dropping their money and then going home. They're having an experience in Old Town and then they're leaving.
There, I thought you said just come here, leave your money.
Well,
Just jump in.
The businesses you want to attract, customers that are there every week, not just twice a year.
yeah, but that's true, but I also want the families in Newburgh to be like, hey, why don't we go up to blah, 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 because we know there's always gonna be something for everybody at that, the food cart pod, and there's all those cute shops, and so let's take some of their money, right?
For sure, not necessarily. So,
Yeah, we keep going.
Let's keep it moving.
Just one quick comment too. Have you been briefed on what our Sherwood West concept plan looks like? Because we have a 60-acre hospitality zoning we're looking at. So we also want to be thinking about that, how they complement each
Right.
other, not compete with each other.
Exactly, I think we're gonna need to dig into that, appreciate that.
Well,
It's gonna be-
all
But
the
if
details
we
yet
keep-
on our
We
hospitality.
don't have, but we need to,
Oh, what?
But we need to start getting
thinking
there.
about it.
Oh, where that starts at.
We haven't talked about wine country as well, like, is there an interest in
Yes.
leveraging?
This is
obviously,
the
the-
gateway one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Still there.
And you talk about people coming in, that's easy.
Oh, yeah.
Slam dunk.
Yeah, we've got a bridge going in that looks literally like the gateway to wine. So. You'll see it. Yeah.
No, I'm really curious what this vision is for the Sherwood West in terms of this hospitality destination. You know, how do you connect that into downtown? Are there components of that? You
Definitely
know,
something that should be
you
part of
see
your.
railroad,
Yeah.
you see growth areas and you think, oh, maybe you could capture that in part of Old Town, but I think we need to clearly know what you're. Like you said, we do not want to create a competing thing. They've got to keep working hand to
Yeah.
I like that first top picture, address the brisket.
Yeah,
That was the building I was referring to.
And Eric really primed us on this one, and, you know, we asked, obviously, can you show this image? It's like, of course, and Bruce, we all walked through it, and, you know, these are zoning codes like dials, you just adjust the dials, and you can fix some things, and you can't create good things with zoning, you can stop bad things. It's generally done.
And I just wanna say that the planning commission did everything in their power to get it even to this. If you would have saw the first renditions. It's,
Yeah,
No windows on that
we just
side.
didn't have, we had limited tools in the code that existed at the time this application came in. And the commission did incredible work to get even to this product, so.
It's one of the reasons you're here.
Yeah.
I think we can appreciate that, the effort that everyone went through, and this developer did, was it multiple iterations, was there an original concept, and then that fell through, that original concept felt more like.
The original concept looked much better.
Yeah.
Was it supposed to be a pizza place?
But it was more about the architecture than the, whatever the design, the architecture was much more in line with. Like what we're seeing on.
I see, to the right.
Slides to the right.
Yeah.
More of that kind of earth tone brick versus the look we got, more articulation, and it doesn't matter now, because this is what we built, but yeah.
And so I was curious about just uses, because was considered, I think, live work, that's how they kind of sold it, so you have the ground floor commercial, although. They're stacked vertically
I
and
think there's only one.
how you use all the floors, I don't know.
Right now,
but
it's
yeah,
the
it's sort of-
barber.
The barber, yeah.
So there's electric bike stores.
Would you have less supported ground floor commercial with apartments above? Was it having ownership was important, or that wasn't an issue at all for folks? I'm just talking about.
Encouraging home ownership is really important, especially with the trends in the market, but I wouldn't say for this building that is.
That wasn't.
It's the right place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. The image on the upper right, we did some work in Sandpoint, Idaho. And we looked at their traditional main street, and much like Pine, they have a building burned down on one end, there's a vacant lot on the other end, and they had a developer online, and we were helping them just understand not like a specific style for Sandpoint, but looking at their traditional older buildings, that's the image on the left, you see those skinny, taller, thinner openings, vertical openings and awnings. And even in new construction, you can emulate a lot of those basic forms without being prescriptive to Jeffersonian or some type of style. And there's a rhythm you can create in just the form of the building and sometimes material if that's valuable in your community. So part of our work here is kind of looking at the DNA of downtown and picking up on some of those characteristics so that it might inform the process in terms of design review. Maybe it's not codified. I think there's some regulatory things we can do with roof pitches and other things. You notice the windows here, they're all just attached to the exterior of the wall, so they're not recessed, so there's no depth. Those things can happen in the zoning code. But this other layer of just understanding kind of the critical forms and rhythms of a building can help in the design review process. It's just a way, maybe it's a checklist. We'd like you to look through our guideline list as well as looking at the code, and so it may add another layer. If that doesn't work,
I
that's
think we put
fine.
that in our code since this.
We have-
We updated the mixed use code, but we didn't update the Old Town design standards.
Oh, we didn't touch
Okay.
it now.
Oh, you have the old set, got it. So maybe it's looking at that.
Yeah, we should.
Well, but given that we have at least 3 styles in Old Town, at least, is there a way to unify it now and say, okay?
It is unified, so what you see on the bottom left would not be allowed today.
Is it the
bottom
local
left.
style is what we're unified on?
Well, the code allowed the top left. It wouldn't allow the bottom left, and I think anymore.
Cause those aren't even that old.
Right, and my understanding is that the current code was adopted in response to the bottom left in part.
Gotcha.
But I was on time check, we need to get through this.
Okay.
But I think we can look at the code again and make sure that it.
It's a general statement, though, I think, honoring our history, you may not know this, but most of the brick buildings in downtown Portland were built with brick manufactured here in Sherwood.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, kind of staying true to some of those things for design standards would be great.
And when I think of Old Town, I think local style much more than the others, even though I know they're all there. That's what I think of Old Town.
Funny, because I think the upper right.
Well, yeah, that too, yeah, but those two I see as very similar, right? Like a brick with a little storefront.
Yeah.
I mean, this is saying this is modern construction, right? And so they're using metal frame windows, but they still use they break the window, forms up. It's interesting when you look at traditional ground floors, you had a transom. That was the window that opened the air through because of hot air rises and goes out. This building flipped the transom upside down, so the transoms are on the bottom, and where this has a solid base, there's barely a base at all on some, so those things that's zoning change where you can easily make those fixes and you won't see that happen again.
Where's this bottom
That's what
right?
I was wondering, where's that
Is that a
from?
low, that's not.
This is Westgate, I
That's
think.
what's getting, just examples of
Okay,
TV show.
oh, like.
Yeah.
We talk about stoop culture a lot when you have housing in downtown or just
Okay.
off the streets, and so. Creating these sort of semi-public spaces between residential and the street are really help.
I know we're pressed for time, and
I
the
think we're
specific
done.
questions you need to get from us.
I think this is the last.
Last two?
This is the last line.
Yeah.
It's kind of important.
We've kind of addressed some of
Yeah,
these as
we
we've
have.
been going, but mine is, okay, we've got these 3 styles. Can we create something that unifies it so that in 50 years, we've at least, even if we've got some of these buildings still standing, it looks more like, oh, that's the outlier because all the rest of the buildings look
Exactly, right.
like Old Town. And frankly, is there a way to incentivize facade replacements, right? Where we say, is there anything that could be done for some of these? Yeah,
I would say to me, I would prioritize, get the right design code first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Build up all your new stuff with that code, and then go back and fix the old stuff.
And there may be a part of it that is, I know some of these buildings have got leaky roofs and different things like that. And so we may say, okay, as a part of, we want to keep these buildings, do we need to invest in making it worthwhile to keep it so that they don't get just torn down and
I would
replaced?
be very selective in the amount of old buildings I would want to pay to keep.
Right, but if you got it replaced with a slant roof,
Because we're gonna change that.
Yeah, but that building's not gonna get replaced anytime in our lifetime.
okay. No, I know, but I'm saying that if tearing it down meant that we had to replace it with something that doesn't fit. Is the
It's got
problem.
built, it's not gonna get torn down.
So we're.
Not this. I'm saying like the old the old yoga studio, right?
So I want to make sure
Okay.
I want to, in about 4 minutes, we have 2 more work sessions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna have lots of meetings on this, so.
We've got a lot of opinions.
It's all good.
All of
Yeah,
you.
it's perfect.
So a couple things, seems like the majority of council is wanting more people to come into Old Town. Right now, I don't feel like we have adequate parking for what we have. Is that being addressed in any of your?
I have 2 thoughts on that front.
Okay, let's hear it.
One-way streets, you get angle and parking on both sides.
You've been talking about that for a
I know,
long
we've
time.
done that for a long time. Second one is if we build strategic parking on the exterior of Old Town.
I'm with
And
you
then we
on
turn
that.
Old Town itself into a complete walk only zone, walk bike zone, or most of Old Town, not the part, the residential part, but
Yeah.
the other parts. Or not, but but at least the parking on the exterior part.
I'm with you on that. That's a strategy we're working on with Battleground Washington now and adding 118 additional spaces. Part of it is just building in efficiencies on existing street parking. But then finding those satellite spots, much like you do on First, where you capture people right when they come in town and they can pull under that lot. That's the kind of thing, because you're so walkable that once you pop in on the edge, you can go just about anywhere. And trust me, doing the one-way streets with the angled parking, you frustrate the hell out of people. And then everyone's sitting there dining in a parking lot. They're just gonna see.
I like the second idea better.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
We are gonna look at parking as part of this study.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it.
And then just one more thing, how are we measuring success for this? It seems very good question. Open-ended, is it just strictly foot traffic? Is it money for the businesses?
I mean, the foot
You'll
traffic-
know it when you feel it.
Dan's like.
Yeah, it's a great question.
I cede my, hold on, I cede my final comments to a business owner in the back here. Do you have a comment? Okay.
Interrupt, and I know.
Yeah.
By your pleasure if I speak.
Go ahead, quick.
Okay,
Yeah.
just quickly, just coming from the Oregon Main Street perspective, so from the state of Oregon and Main Street and the dollars that are available. I think there's a balance between what you're saying is you repurposing properties that are unutilized and developing them. But then also creating the balance of keeping the integrity of the historic preservation of the town. You can turn that thematic or congruous with messaging also. Whether this is the gateway to wine country, what is that? How's that expressed in building, things like that.
Yeah.
But there's real dollars, right now, 400,000 available leading up to March, for historic preservation projects. So we can leave that money on the table and that's fine and go a different direction, but there's real dollars and motivation to preserve some of the at least well-utilized old buildings, you know, and do away with way underutilized buildings. So it's a conversation.
I would love for a list to be created. And your input of Old Town businesses and stakeholders is important in that, but look, not every building in Old Town should be preserved, but some should be.
Sure.
I don't know which ones it's fall in, which of
I
those
really like the
categories.
bank building.
And I would love there to be a list that says, these are ones that are worthy of protection, and we should go invest dollars and get outside dollars even better. To protect those and to up level them in their current state, and then these are the other ones that we should target for redevelopment.
So, and I think that's why paying attention to 1537 is so important, because that was one of the biggest things we were telling Salem when we were trying to block that bill, is it really makes it a lot harder to protect the historic properties in your town. So really need to take a close look at that. We are at the bottom of the hour here. Is there any last minute? Sure.
So they talked about a project advisory committee, a PAC, rather than a CAC or a TAC. Is that a committee of the council that is somebody from council is gonna sit on and?
Yeah, we will likely bring a resolution forward to you on the 15th for council to formally bless that, and it will.
Like after people are selected that you're suggesting?
We'll run this by you before
Yeah.
it actually shows up, so we'll get the buy-in from council before the resolution, of course, but it's gonna be
Really the mayor?
like mayor, however you guys want to do it.
Well, the mayor does the slate, and then council has to approve it. So
Yep,
it's
yep.
really all of us.
Yeah.
So,
Council member for sure, member of the planning commission for sure, and then a nice mix of business owner, property owner, potentially resident, a nice mix of the stakeholders.
I recommend Doug and Dan if we could have two counselors, but
I absolutely, I mean, if there's strong council interest in this.
Too, yeah.
Don't create forum.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I think that's an offline conversation we can have and figure out what the right makeup and mix of that is.
We'll have to figure it out.
Yep.
rock, paper, scissors. All right. Okay, well,
It's been fun. Thank
yeah,
you
thanks
so
so
much
much.
for
We'll
having
be
us.
talking a lot more, I'm
Yes.
sure. So appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Very possible to do the, if we're gonna bounce, we bounce
I think there's excitement for it.
All right, so I think.
We're not bouncing any so that you get.
I think we need to do.
You wanna move it to after the meeting?
If one is gonna get moved, they have.
This is one that, to me, before we got
So I can
here.
leave.
No.
And there's been some of the recent past too that I would.
Think
I don't know, since 1 a.m.
We can talk about that.
Did you
Yeah.
fly it?
All right, Brad.
8 o'clock in San Antonio.
Sir, you are here to talk about the website update.
I've been noticing some changes with when I've been on the
Yeah.
website. And my phone looks so much
Yes.
different on my phone.
Yes, I'll talk about that. There's a lot of website changes happening. Lots of them are, not all of them are related together, but let me get this shared out here real quick.
Hi, Sebastian. In case anybody didn't know, he's online.
I did know that.
Hello, can you all hear me? Hello?
Walk down the hall, do that.
Really hard to see. My Zoom is. Oh, I'll talk that.
Guess they all laughed on you.
I guess they all left. Okay.
They,
We have a note here.
they will be back, you
Okay.
just go forward.
Okay. See if I can. Get a little easier to see here. Okay, so just a quick update on the website. Before we get into the new website, that's the project that council approved in this year's budget. We are doing a internal update to the current site, and that's to support some ADA compliance. So you may have seen the text got a lot bigger, some of the icons look a little bit different. It's not ideal. I think it could be better, but given the fact that we are probably 6 months away from seeing the new site, we decided just to live with it. We are fixing a few bugs as they crop up, but all the content is still there. And like I said, we are hoping to be live here, at least in the testing phase in March. So the new site, we've done quite a bit so far. I apologize, this isn't displaying. I need to get my in tool so I can kind of. We've gone through a handful of exercises so far. So we started with mood boards. We've got about 15 staff members that are on a committee within the city that we went through and looked at a bunch of website examples that the vendor gave us and said, which do you like? What don't you like? That kind of informed their initial design for us. After that, we went into some site mapping. So we looked at the navigation of the site and was there any changes in the navigation that had to happen? This is just a chart to kind of show the timeline of when that was done. So this is July, this is August. And I apologize, I can't.
Did you have what was, when you talked about looking at the site map, did you have like a, what was your guiding principles around that site, the mapping looks like on the site?
So we took a scrape of the current website and basically pulled all of the pages out. And we showed it in a layout and they ran it through some accessibility tools to kind of find out what the best navigation was. So it was a lot of their work saying kind of these things need to go here, these things need to go there. At the end of the day, a lot of sites are very similar in the sense that there's a government section, there's a community section, there's a business section. So we still follow that same trend with some minor tweaks around that.
How many pages are we talking?
450.
That's way too many.
It is way too many.
Yeah, 10x too many, because most stuff should be pages with content management inside them.
We will get to that. Yep, that was one of the findings, and that's one of the things that we're working on now.
Just one, are you looking at what the frequent flyers are and making sure those are easy to navigate through? Like,
Yes.
hey, your bill should be on the home page.
You'll see some examples here. So we spent a lot of time looking at kind of what's the most important things. We put an emphasis on citizen engagement, finding those services links on the front page in a couple different locations. So anyway, went through the site map, got through that. Then we started into our wireframes. And I'll move into the kind of what that looked like for us. So the wireframe, you guys, I'm sure know this, is really the blueprint of what the site's gonna look like. It's the boxes where content goes, it's where the navigation lives. And this is what that site originally looked like. So this is not a real website, so it doesn't render correctly. It's a development page. So that's why it looks a little bit off. But you'll see here, we've got a city logo at the upper left-hand corner. We have portal login. And I want to, that's a section I'll talk about here in a minute. Where you can, it's a quick link of the kind of city services that we offer. So I want to pay a bill. I want to pay a fee. I want to reserve a park shelter. That all kind of lives in that spot. We have a contact form, and then these are our main kind of headings: city services, government, our community business development. Those are largely the same that we have currently. We have a banner site here that basically will allow us to scroll news events or alerts. And then we have what they call this hero image, where it'll be our beauty shot with potentially some text underneath it. Quick links, we'll be able to feature an item. I see this is something like the pedestrian bridge project. If we wanted something to highlight where we could put some text on, this is what would show up here.
We want community feedback on something.
Yep. So other news articles. So we have news today, but we don't have any really graphics with them. So we're kind of trying to spruce that up a little bit. We have another kind of I want to section. We're here to help. It's essentially the same things, how you do the typical interactions as a resident on the page. And then we have upcoming events, upcoming meetings, and then our footer. So unlike our current page, which is largely, you don't scroll for it, it is static. This one, you're going to scroll down, but we're going to be able to put more content on the front page, which was one of the first things that staff had said is we need more content on the front page. So this is how we achieve that. This is what staff kind of moved forward with. I won't go through all the sub pages, but as you go through, here's like what a news page will look like. You can sign up for news alerts. You can search archives. If you wanted to look for just library news, you could search it here. I can hit a couple of them. Are we still going to try and do Eric tonight? Because I'll go quick if we
Keep going.
Okay. So just a variety, and I'll share these links with you if you'd like. So this is what happens when you click on a news page. You get information on it. If there's supporting documents, they get attached there. This is the meeting agendas page. The detail of that. So this is where you'll see the agenda, additional documents for the meeting. One change to this is we're building an agenda management solution in here. So you'll actually see the text of the agenda on this page. So you don't necessarily have to open up the PDF. That's great. Yes. That was a big requirement that we put in the RFP.
We have a link there to the actual YouTube.
Yeah.
Link as well.
Yep.
Can we automatically publish that to our social medias?
We can. I think we have to be a little bit careful how it formats, but when we get to that point, I think that makes a lot of sense to publish there too, as long as we can get the formatting right. Events calendar, similar. All these pages you can kind of filter on. Just a different view, calendar view of the events. Same idea. You can filter across the top. This is what the detail page looks like. I've asked them about the calendar items being a subscribable calendar item so that it changes. That is something that we will do. City services. These pages have not been designed yet. So where we're at in the project today is we've only gotten designs for the front page. So this is just hypothetically what they'll look like. The design is still that's the next phase we're going into.
So looks amazing.
Yeah.
Question. What are you doing in terms of what's the processes and procedures for maintaining the data on the site? So we don't, because we have, I'll call it technical debt, because we have a lot of you search council rules, the fourth oldest rule comes up first as well as the first one. What are we also building those processes to make sure that the site's kept up to date, all the stuff is archived?
So yeah, I think there's something I haven't talked to Craig about, but I think we need to have a standards guide. So we built a website, we built a social media kind of standards guide when we started social media. I think we need the same for the website that says every page probably has to have an expiration date or a date that you get alerted that you as the publisher need to check back on. We're basically uplifting all the content and rewriting it, or we will copy and paste it to the new site. So there's an opportunity there for staff to kind of review, hey, is this still current? One of the action items for them is to look at the page and say, hey, these two pages are similar, maybe I can combine them. So that it's just one
That
page.
concerns me a little bit because I feel like pages should be extremely static and everything should be in content management.
Say it again.
Well, it concerns me a little bit that you're talking about page updates and page expiration when I feel like the pages themselves should be mostly static and that your content would be inside your CMS. That would then get rendered to those pages, and that would be the part that you'd want to make sure you have updated and
Which it is.
all that stuff.
Which it is. So when you create a page, you're following a template, you're gonna follow like a service program detail, you're gonna add your content to it. But that content still might have an expiration date or.
Yeah, the content should.
Yeah.
But the page itself is just
I
a
think what
container.
you said is what he meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Um. So,
Should be creating pages very often.
well, yeah. We're not creating any of these, so this is what they're gonna create for us.
Yeah.
We're just infilling the
Creating
content.
the content. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
We're infilling the content on, outside of.
So is there a content management system behind this where if things get an expiration date attached, there's a workflows for approvals and all that,
Yeah.
things.
And anyone trained would be able to
Absolutely.
create and manage their own content in any
The search
department.
engine will know to prioritize the most recent document, all that type of stuff.
Well, I mean, so traditional search engines are gonna go by keywords, but one of the reasons why we like this vendor is they had kind of a more AI enabled search engine, so it was actually looking at natural language searches and trying to kind of bring in results there too, but we can tune that search engine to say, only pull up the most recent documents created first, you know, and those documents that don't meet the criteria of the search show up as a lower priority in the list.
But I do think there's value in the older documents, because sometimes I've pulled up a couple years to see what was the difference between this year and that year.
I think I agree and disagree. If it's something like council rules, I think the public should only be able to see the most current one, because I think it's super confusing if they pull up. an old
You can
one.
have archives.
But there should be archives available for internal.
But what about council goals? That's for the community
Sure,
to see.
sure.
That's, yeah, I wouldn't say rules, but.
But the goals would say these are the 2023 goals, these are the
Correct.
2022 goals.
There's tools out there to manage all this, we just gotta make sure.
And everything that you guys are saying are all part of the RFP, are all things that we had asked them to do. We're not to the point of managing the content yet. We're trying to get the framework built. There's a 3-month period there where we're actually putting content in, we're working on kind of setting up the policies around it. And that's what follows this next step here. So,
So far, good.
yeah, they all kind of look the same. Happy to go through all of them, or I can kind of go straight into kind of what we've come up with on the front page.
Front page.
You want to see?
Yeah, I think just a high level is fine.
So this is what our first design came back with. And like I said, it's not a website, so it doesn't render correctly. Move this over here and I can zoom it in just a little bit.
You can upload a gallery and they will rotate through.
Yep. Yep. So the developers really had a hard time with our logo with the greens and finding complementary colors. So we said, okay, we still want to see colored versions of the logo, but show us like an outline version and then pick whatever colors you think are complementary or would go together. So that's why you see this. I don't know that it fits, but we wanted to show that as an example. So this is that same wireframe, but now with color.
On our plan to get a new logo, develop a new logo, where's that on our list?
I think didn't we slow roll that until next year? Right, it seems like,
Mhm.
but I agree we need one, and frankly. Until we get a second high school, it feels like maroon's our color, and so I don't know.
School's color, not the city's color.
Every shirt I have that says Sherwood is that color.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the
Nope,
conversation.
that's okay. I just wanted to show you, so one of the big pieces of this website was making sure we're ADA compliant. and ADA compliant at a pretty high level. So this little icon here is called is an add-on called UserWay, and it allows you to kind of change the look and the feel for those that might need a different view of the site. And I'm pulling up City of Vancouver because they already have it implemented on theirs, but it's really great. Like, I mean, you can change contrast, I mean, at different levels. You can change links so they get highlighted. It's a really great tool, bigger text, so that'll be an option to,
For an option to have things read to you for blind people?
I would imagine, there's so many things.
Yeah.
Saturation.
You showed me one that had that.
So
Very cool.
when you see that icon, that's what that is. Okay, so yeah, what you saw before, just with pictures in it. On the topic of pictures, we hired a photographer, actually hired 2 photographers to come through and take some more pictures, some updated pictures around Sherwood. So they've come out really great, so we're gonna have a full.
Video?
What's that?
Are they also taking video?
Not video, but we've talked about that.
Feels like
Yeah,
everywhere they go, they should take video and pictures.
yeah.
Whether we use them for this project or
Yeah.
archive them for a future one.
Yeah, they did take a lot of drone photography, so we have a lot of like, blown out pictures, but I'm having them come back out in the fall time to take some fall type pictures. And the idea is that maybe, every couple of years they come back out and kind of update that gallery of photos that we have. Since this site does have a lot more spots for photos, so this is the We're Here to Help page. You can kind of just see it's just now filled in. So that was one version. This was another option they came up with, where we gave us a little bit more options over here this is that how do I section. Kind of with a carousel image. We've got a colored logo now. This is more in the color of the city logo. Maybe with a little bit more blues.
I do like that you're getting action above the scroll on this. Right, versus having to scroll down before you see any actionable. Content.
What does it look like on mobile? Did you already show that or no?
We won't be able, this isn't an actual page that's gonna render right mobile.
Is it gonna be responsive design?
So that's one option. So we put so one of the comments we gave them was a lot of the page is pretty flat. There's no texture behind it. So they added some photos behind some of these sections. This one here is just I think a different green. Same page, same logos are a little bit different. This was round 1 feedback. Just another variation, all kind of the same sitemap that you saw, or the same wireframe that you saw before. With a little bit more imagery behind as well.
I like the footer photos and like those band, those kind of band photos that you just had there that they give you nice texture and break up the content
Yeah.
section. Well,
So that was the big feedback we gave them. And then they came back with kind of version 2. So one thing we said is, hey, the header looks pretty flat. Can you do something to make the logo pop off the page?
Like that a lot, right?
And do something a little bit different, more stylized. So this is that first page with kind of a circle around the logo. I think the color looks a little bit better.
that logo makes our logo look as good as is possible.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that one too.
That's a terrible word.
Just be careful if we rebrand, at some point we rebrand and we
Yeah.
change our logo.
Well,
Site and adapt to
and-
easily.
Because it's all content managed system, this is just an overlay, right? So when we decide to do branding, it's just a new CSS, a new graphic design over the top of our content. It's not a rebuild of the website.
I understand that, but that particular design
Oh.
kind of,
Yeah, and I would imagine that we would, if we go through a branding exercise, we might just say, hey, what pieces would you change on the website? And these are very compartmentalized. You can pick apart them and change them around. And if we change colors, those are easy to do. You can see they went with green, went back to green here. Those of you that remember a very, very old website, we had a lot of yellow bars. This reminds me of that site a lot because we did a lot of this text in a long line. We all liked the imagery, so we had them put imagery in this section as well as down here.
I like the footer a lot.
This page here seems to be staff's favorite of all of them.
Mine so far too. No, I don't like that at all.
So, because I told them to use a little bit of graphic creativity, they put some swoops in here and, I think nobody likes that one.
So Brad, do you need anything from us tonight?
Nope, I'm just giving you an update.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's great progress.
so
Yeah,
Really promising.
another version
Uh,
and another version, so.
no, the one with that rounded logo,
We do
that
that,
one,
okay.
that one looks nice.
But doesn't matter.
You're
Well,
just-
Staff can
Well,
decide.
let's that.
I'm comfortable with staff, whatever staff picks, it's gonna be great.
So with that, any other feedback, because I'm gonna give them the go ahead on this, if this is what everybody likes.
I'm more concerned about what staff is gonna be the easiest for staff to manage and you guys know who's calling you and what the public's asking for, so you have a better feel for where stuff needs to be than I do, so.
I'm kind of with Doug. I like the one that had the action above the fold, though.
The action above the fold
Meaning the scroll, before you had to scroll,
on the,
the green.
on the left side.
Keep going.
I mean, I like the design of that one you guys all like the best, but
Going back to the top,
This
yeah.
like, I don't like this design as much, but
Well, you could put
we
that.
are favoring like giving people
That's
like
like
immediate
easier
access
for
to
someone
what they're
to
doing.
get to where they wanna go quickly.
So-
Unlike that, now, if you wanna pay your bill, you gotta
Someone in.
read paragraphs and.
Yeah.
It seems like you would put that rounded logo over on that other one too.
So that
I like-
same function is this, how do I up there, and it's also here.
I think people tend to gravitate toward what's at them versus the navigational bars at the top.
Yeah, you read like an F, right?
So you're saying the original design, okay, I guess we don't. Guess we don't have it on this
I
one.
think we're saying we like
Like that.
the design you all like, but I think to me, I just like the fact that we're bringing the action above.
This is more user friendly.
It
Okay.
seems to me that the design, we all said you like that circle around,
Yep.
could be put on this page.
Or vice versa, you just
Yeah,
Put that on the other
take
page.
that action area and move it to the other design.
yeah, I think we can do that. Okay, so, next step is to do the sub pages after that, and then we're in a 3-month period of putting content in, kind of designing the back end of the system. And then, like I said, late March is supposed to be testing.
Okay.
For the life site.
Awesome.
Great project.
Thank you, Brad. Awesome.
Question for another day, but do we have metrics on
Website?
I'm happy.
website usage, like unique users, unique visits?
Yeah, they're,
Get into it later, but,
not on the current site, but they're being implemented on the site.
okay,
So-
so we don't know for now, on the old site, we have no idea.
We don't
Yeah.
know.
So I do want to get to Eric because we have to talk about this before the regular meeting.
That's fine.
Yeah, so
We can start like.
it's playing right now. Yeah, thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Here.
You're gonna get the right actually shortly. Someone's mom's out there.
Oh. That text here and stuff.
We don't start with-
Keith made the, next your mom, Keith made the meeting late.
And there may be some eighth graders here from the civics class that we're hoping that we voted on the food cart thing today, but I told them it's on the 15th now, so.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
Wait, we moved?
No, it's always.
It's next meeting.
Eric, welcome to our
Joy's not here.
our every other week update on the UGB process.
Here we are. So we'll make this really quick because we're short on time. The last work session, we presented this slide, kind of showed you the process that the Sherwood West proposal was going to go through. Just briefly touch base on all of these blue slides here. It went to MTAC, it went to the Metro Core Committee on Racial Equity, it went to MPAC. And then most recently, Metro Council held a public hearing on the Sherwood West. So I'll just briefly go over all of that and the outcomes of it. The target for the Metro Council to give direction to staff is still October 8th, which is October 1st, so it's a week from today. I'm not sure if they're gonna hit that target and how much detail is gonna be provided, but I'll follow up with Metro staff, keep in touch with them this week, and so we.
Is that a public meeting?
It's a work session.
Okay,
So not.
but it's public.
It's public, but no testimony.
Is it morning? Is that when they do that?
It's gonna be mid-morning, 11 is usually what
It's early.
it is.
Yeah.
By law.
Get that sent out to everyone.
Yeah, we can send that to you. So the first meeting was the Metro Technical Advisory Committee that's mainly made up of staff of different fields, urban planning, architecture, et cetera, housing throughout the region. What Metro staff asked that committee was, do you agree with the recommendation to expand the UGB to include Sherwood West in the urban reserve? In the end, the recommendation was yes. It wasn't unanimous, but they did vote in favor. And in addition to that, they said, please pass on all of our notes, all of our comments, basically really diverse range of comments that came in. There was at the bottom there, you can see there was a motion that was moved by the city of Portland to increase the density in Sherwood West and also require the mixed employment zone to be regionally significant industrial land. That motion failed. So in the end, they went in favor of the COO recommendation with the notes the notes of that meeting. Some of the comments that were at MTAC, minimum number of homes and residential density, housing affordability requirements, some discussion about transit and transit-oriented development, some climate discussion, and then the importance of industrial land and what restrictions on industrial land should look like. Kind of on the flip side, there was a lot of comments and concern from a lot of jurisdictions within the metro about burdensome conditions of approval and sort of cautioning against the unintended consequences of conditions of approval. And, and then sort of in the same vein, caution against our 1,300 acres trying to carry the burden of all of our sort of regional problems right now. And I've said this many times before. I said it at that meeting as well. Sherwood West is about 1.5% of the growth over the next 20 years in this region. And it just frankly feels like all of the problems are trying to be solved in Sherwood West, and we need to really look at the whole picture. So that was what at MTAC.
This motion to make it regionally significant, what would that have done?
That's
More restrictions.
puts more
Do
restrictions.
they give us
on-
more money though? I mean, do they, okay.
No, I think we're likely looking at a lot size restriction in all circumstances, 50-acre minimum. We've talked about that. What this would do is limit the amount of commercial. And you've mentioned this a few times, actually, can this area serve the sort of supporting commercial to the industrial? And this would put further restrictions on that. So the city, in my opinion, we're okay with some restrictions on the industrial land, and it can be an industrial designation, but when you put in the regionally significant, it turns that dial even more, and it just seems like a little bit of overkill.
So more bureaucracy than we'd have to go through to get development there.
Yes, and there's nuances, but that's it's basically the square footage of supporting commercial.
Just to be clear, on the 5 things listed under suggested conditions of approval, those were things that individuals suggested, but did not make the recommendation list by MPAC.
Correct.
And
it was mainly, and you can see the same pattern in impact. It was mainly Multnomah County, Portland, TriMet, and oddly enough, the non-voting member from Vancouver.
Soil districts, people like that. It went to the Committee on Racial Equity, a little bit less of a sort of public, it was still a public meeting, but not much testimony. These came just from this group, the committee. And these are recommendations for Sherwood West. I really don't know how Metro Council is going to see these, how much leg they might have.
They had some comments at the Metro meeting.
At the Metro meeting as well, yep.
Yeah.
So conduct community needs assessment for public amenities, really making sure the whole community is served in Sherwood West. Conduct community engagement in the region's most spoken languages, complete culturally specific outreach to under-engaged communities. And then develop a housing plan that includes mixed levels of affordability that correspond to regional and state housing goals. Align housing affordability with salaries of projected new jobs. And so that was passed on to the Metro Council for consideration. And then the Metro Policy Advisory Committee, which Mayor Rosener sits on, really interesting meeting, kind of followed the same trend as the MTAC meeting. City of Portland was there. They did have a commissioner that made a motion to increase the density in Sherwood West and impose the regionally significant industrial land. That motion failed again. In the end, that committee did make a formal motion to recommend approval of Sherwood West based on the COO recommendation.
Well, with more than that, it was based on the CO recommendation, but not apply any condition that goes beyond.
Yep, I'll get there. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, the recommendation or basically no conditions that require us to do anything more than we've already promised in our concept plan.
Yeah.
Joe Buck made that motion, that passed overwhelmingly.
Yep, so
It's important because that's what we keep
It's a really.
saying is that for 2 years, this is what we were able to get our community behind, is our
Yep,
content plan.
Yep, so there were three amendments to that sort of base motion. The first was adopt the high growth forecast instead of the baseline forecast. That would be region
That's the
wide.
metro growth.
That's metro regional growth forecast, basically how much growth should we assume is gonna occur? And they had a low baseline and high. Impact said use the high as an assumption. Mayor Rosner mentioned, this was the exact language, Metro shall not impose any additional requirements on the city of Sherwood that are not articulated in their concept plan that passed. And then the last was to agree to create a task force to report to Metro Council on opportunities for growth and capacity models that are more reflective of market realities in this urban growth process. Basically, the concern is that it's a theoretical planning exercise, this growth forecast and supply and demand analysis. And there really needs to be even more. And I do think Metro made an attempt this cycle to bring in developers and others that can speak to the market realities. I think this sends a message that Impact wanted them to go even further during the next cycle.
And the problem, Metro, to their credit, have opened up and they're a lot more transparent than they've ever been. And I do appreciate that. But that process, they didn't really get into all the assumptions that go into the growth. And it's not a reality on the ground, it's based on models. And what we're saying is they gotta get it, they gotta go down to that level and really understand it, because when you have, what, 3% vacancy rate for industrial space in Washington County, and they're saying we have more than enough for the next 20 years, it doesn't work.
The model needs to reflect market realities, and I think that message was sent clear. And then sort of culminate all this sort of culminated in a Metro Council public hearing where they accepted public testimony. The core Committee on Racial Equity gave their summary of their recommendation. The Impact Chair, Commissioner Treese from Washington County, showed up and provided the summary on behalf of Impact.
And can I add, Clackamas County, Washington County, and all the other mayors that are on Impact have been just amazing supporters of what we're trying to do, and they really helped in this meeting. So yes, yeah,
100% at
the
the
exception of Multnomah County and the city of Portland.
And I'd say the same at the staff level, planning managers, directors, others at those cities, super supportive. There was a few hours of testimony at the Metro council meeting. I wasn't counting exact numbers, but there was definitely more in support than in opposition. The supporters of Sherwood West were property owners, real estate professionals, economic development organizations, all in support of Sherwood's proposal.
It's not a single like current Sherwood resident though, like none of our current.
Yeah, it's during the day, and I think that's probably a big reason why. It was kind of the staff from the
Yeah.
organizations that were there.
Yeah.
There was opposition from sort of formal groups, Thousand Friends of Oregon and other land use advocacy groups. There was also some from the wine industries that we know are opposing or concerned about Sherwood West. So
A fellow Rotarian kept score, and I think he said 11 testified in favor and 7 against.
sounds about right.
That wasn't the number?
17-11.
17-11, yeah.
17 in favor, 11 opposed.
So those are the exact numbers. Thank you. So there were more, there were more in support. Metro Council was going to take all of that and then, look at whether or not to expand the boundary, whether or not to adopt the high growth forecast or the baseline, and then whether any conditions of approval are needed. So I think there's still some runway ahead of us, even with these favorable, recommendations. So we really need to track the next week and 2 weeks is going to be super important as we continue to work with Metro staff and sort of how all of this actually lands.
I continue to have conversations with Metro councilors.
Sort of switch, so that's the summary, and then sort of switching gears a little bit. If you remember, about a month ago, we were exploring our options as this was really kind of becoming a concern for us. So just to give you a quick primer, that you'll have a resolution tonight, 2024-065. In the same sort of vein as the last resolution that we passed would allow Mayor Rosner to modify
the Sherwood West application for industrial and hospitality land only, as you're seeing on the slide here, in case the process looks like it's going in a direction that, you know, we think is not in the best interest of the community. So it'd be about 300 acres in the north, about 80 acres in the south. We do have an updated infrastructure financing plan and updated Title 11 findings that the mayor can get sent on, if you and he feels like that's needed.
And of course, we would have if time permitted, we would have even an emergency meeting, to have a conversation. I have a question on this. We can do an industrial ask anytime, correct? Yep. We don't have to wait for the next cycle.
I actually don't know off the top, but if Councilor Mays knows for sure, then I take his word for it.
And the hospitality zone may not fall into
That's
that,
the
so.
question, would the hospitality zone fall into that?
Yeah. So why don't I look into that? We can let you know, just so you know, if, you know, you don't need to feel like you need to pull the trigger on this, that we could wait a year or 2 years and actually do
I
it.
think the odds of pulling the trigger on this are extremely
They seem
small
yep.
at this point. Just based on questioning whether we even need it at this point. But
I'd rather, of the options, I'd rather have this ready and I'd rather modify than punt and hope we could do an industrial ask later and then it not, or then we can't do the hospitality or whatever.
in my same commitment applies, if we
If
have,
we're ready, we have,
but if an issue comes up and we can get an emergency meeting scheduled to get us all here and talk about it, we will do that. Yeah, this is really just in case.
So the pull the ripcord out.
Our shenanigans happens. Yeah.
Great, that's all I have for you.
Any questions for Eric? I mean, overall, I thought the impact went really well. It ended up in the right place, and the vast majority of the people in the room were very supportive. We just had a few people in there that were trying hard. And they lost.
Yep, I think we really, I'll be paying attention to this, keep you guys informed. We really do need to pay attention, continue to pay attention to the conditions of approval and see where those are landing.
Most of the conversations I'm having now are around affordability. It feels like we're in a good place on density and the industrial land, but the affordability one keeps coming back.
Yep.
And
they want to commit money.
Yeah,
well, and
we can make it affordable if they can give us that infrastructure.
yeah, and that's a bit of message we send. It's like, yeah, if you want to write a check, write a check. But other than that, we're unhappy commitments. The words I've been using is we're more than happy to have it be part of our comprehensive planning process and find ways to create an environment where it can happen. We just can't commit us to it because we don't have the resources to do it on our own.
There was one comment, I don't recall who made it, was something about the city has never actually applied for any, or
Metro bonds.
metro type things, so doesn't mean we can't. I mean, if we have it as an aspirational goal and we start talking more about affordable housing, but.
And I think to the point of the conversation we we're having earlier, there's probably better places in Sherwood to go after that, right? And I think that
Yes.
we'd be all over that, right? I think that spot we were talking about earlier is a perfect example of that. There's others too.
And I've been really clear with that as I've talked to Metro councilors. I've even brought up what we're doing with our public works building at the Tannery site, opening up 4.5 acres for redevelopment, which would be a great place as well, so. But putting it out where there's no buses, doesn't make
No
sense.
services.
And inherently, new development is less affordable.
Well, and we also have HB 2003, which is gonna require every city in the state to put together a housing production plan based on income levels. So we're already gonna have to put the plans together. Metro does need to reinforce it. So. So, we got one more thing, Keith.
Great.
Are you trying to end the meeting?
Yeah.
All right, we're adjourned.